stuff. I added some more stuff. If you're curious, you can go explore. Oh, another thing that I meant to say, I don't think I told y'all about this last time. This is like getting kind of into the nitty gritty, but in a way that's perhaps useful. I added like anchor tags to every single one of these, every like page heading and line heading, so that you can do, they're predictable. I mean, I just used developer tools to look at it because I didn't remember what I called it, but they're just like the file names. That was smart of me, I guess. So if I do like page 2, line 11, it's actually a link to that specific line. So if you want to like discuss something in Discord, you can like put this in, like obviously, you know, test it once, make sure it points to the right place. And then you can just use this URL and like, you know, paste it into Discord or whatever if you have a question about a specific line. And then whoever clicks on that link, it will like jump straight to that part of the page, no matter where else they might be. Like if I refresh this, wait, that should work. Yeah, it's just off to the side because I still haven't quite figured this out. So I used like the transform thing. What do you call it? Transform attributes in CSS. I don't know what the little things in CSS are actually called. Transform key value pair in CSS to like make it to scale down everything, just so that like I can zoom all the way out without getting that like, you know, zoom out of all your pages thing to see the entire line, and still zoom all the way in like as far as we would need to. But it does this weird thing where it like renders the entire block and then shrinks it. So there's like white space where it used to take up this space and now it's been shrunk over here. So there's just like weird white space. I'm definitely not good enough at CSS to figure out how else to do it or how to fix that. The main problem I have is that if I make it actual size, then you can zoom to actual size, but you can't actually zoom out with like without this happening, right? Like Safari, and I can't remember whether Chrome works the same way. Like most browsers won't actually let you zoom out beyond the 100%. And then, so if I put it at 100%, it looks kind of like this or something. And then it's like, well, you can never actually just like zoom out and see the whole line at once, which I thought was really annoying. So I tried to find like a quick solution, and my solution kind of sucks because it puts all this like this white space over here, and you just always have to scroll to the right. But kind of a small price to pay to have this like extra visual range where we can like zoom out and zoom in as needed. If anybody knows a better solution, feel free to suggest it, or even better, just go change it in the repo to your better solution and make a pull request. And then I'll just accept it because I'll just assume that you know more than me about CSS. I use CSS almost every single day and I don't know anything. Like I know how to use it, but I don't. I have like no like mental model for how CSS works. I always have to like look at other examples and see how they've done it, and just kind of like cargo cult my CSS. I've never learned it. That's so embarrassing, but whatever. And I've just said that in a video that's going to be recorded and put online for anyone to watch. But oh well. Nobody knows everything, right? Anyway, so that's why it looks the way it does. That's why this white space, in case you're wondering, when you like load this line, you end up over here, and it's like, why is the thing? It's because of that. It's because of like formatting and me trying to make it in a good format so that it works for us, using a bit of a hack to make it work well. Anyway, okay, so, but yeah, this using these like little anchor tags definitely is something that you can use to your advantage, especially if you have a question about something. You just point people right to it and save yourself some time explaining. Okay, so last time we read like all the way to here, I think, but we didn't actually get to the hieratic. We kind of quickly went through the previous line and just matched things up. And then we got to here, and I was like, oh, that's a weird one, right? It's like this, which, you know, takes a little bit of imagination to see in this thing, which is, I believe, a whip. I believe that's what that hieroglyph is, if I remember correctly. But you can tell what's happened here. They started off doing, I think the original and cursive hieroglyphs look like this. So you have to very carefully draw that. You like start here and then do like kind of a figure 8 with a triangle on the end, and then do the tail the very last. And you can see how if you do that enough times, you just end up simplifying it. because there's no other hieratic sign that looks like that I can think of. Ralph very helpfully posted the entry in Muller's Hieratic, where you can see the different variations of what I'm talking about. Like, I think this one looks an awfully lot like the hieroglyph itself and wouldn't be at all confusing. And then it provides like a linkage to cases like this, where it looks significantly less like the hieroglyph, but you can see how the, you know, if you were to write that sign 100 times, you can see how you'd end up with something like this. The main thing that's confusing about it is that it's very round, whereas the hieroglyph is very flat. So, I mean, a lot of times with hieratic, you're working with kind of like a, almost like an outline shape, right? Like with, let's say something like Horus, right? Horus has roughly this bird outline shape. And then the hieratic sign has the same rough outline shape with a couple of key features that are thrown in, like the legs, to make it identifiable. In a lot of cases, you really only have the rough outline. Like if you do a sort of like a shrink wrapped convex hull, concave hull sort of operation, the silhouette that you get matches, and that's kind of what you learn when you learn hieratic, but this is a case where the silhouette doesn't match at all, so I thought it was especially confusing. Anyway, okay, so that's that.
Is the line at the bottom of the falcon, is that just the legs, or is it standing on something?
I think it's the feet.
It's just the feet, okay.
Yeah, it's like, if you look at, oh man, this is an opportunity to show you Horus. Wait, I was gonna say falcon. It's an opportunity to show you some of the most beautiful artifacts of ancient Egypt ever.
Yeah, in Middle Kingdom, there was something.
This is, I think this is late period Ptolemaic, but I'm sure there are examples from the Middle Kingdom too. They very typically depict the falcon's feet as being these sort of flattened out talons. I think that's what you're getting in the hieratic. Yeah, isn't this just, oops, I didn't mean to click on it, but might as well. Isn't this just fantastic, this object? It's in the Met, in that like you go in the Egyptian section and like go to that hallway to the left, and then like go through the room with all the watercolors. And then the next room, there's a bunch of really cool like late period Ptolemaic stuff, including some really interesting silver objects that I definitely like cited and things. But this, I just stare at this. And so it's only like, it's almost like you could wear it on a necklace. It's like 10 centimeters tall, this thing. And it's so intricately detailed and just fantastic. But yeah, main point is to see the way they depict the feet. Also in sculpture, the feet they're splayed. You know, it's like 3 toes with 1 toe pointing backwards, typical like raptor foot, but the side profile still has that like horizontal quality. I think that's what they're capturing there. It's my best guess. It's a good question. Any other questions?
No.
Nay.
Yeah.
That was such a Berlin thing to say, Mustafa. People here always say nay. I don't really know why, because I suck at German, but anyway. Okay, so all this looks pretty good. The alignment gets a little bit off, but you know, you can tell where it goes. EU, and then there's our N, our T, and then the little egg, which is, I guess, like this, drawn like this, or maybe sometimes drawn 2 pieces. I don't know, we would really need Aurelio to tell us about that. Yeah, so we got our egg, and then falcon on a stick, which we've seen a million times. And then this word where, which we've also seen quite a few times at this point. Looks like what you think it would. It's quite wide. It looks like we've actually got, what is that? Looks like we've got a little bit of ink. No, it's just a bit of blur in the pointing here. Just a bit of blur in the image. So this is still lacuna. And it's just cutting off the back of the werebird, which often is very long and flat like this. I think we can see either that's part of lacuna or it's just a bit of a tail of the werebird. I don't know for sure. And then I'm gonna stay zoomed in like this because this works really well. And then Netcher, Moot, not much to it. It kind of looks like any other. It looks like the owl in hieratic. It looks like a lot of birds. Kind of phoning it in a bit on the Moot, but you know what it's supposed to say because it's talking about meat. So Netcher, Moot, Netcher, honorific transposition, mother of God, God's mother. Another falcon on a stick, looks just like you think it should. Sahedge, I fixed the typo from last time, so the hedge is actually there now. If you remember, that was, I had left it out in the transcription. And another ray. Sun with drippy rays coming off of it. This hair, which we've seen a bunch of times, we've seen enough times for you to kind of get used to it, but something like that, still, it's not obvious. This, I don't know if we've actually seen this yet, or if I've talked about it, but they draw this a few different ways, but in cursive hieroglyphs, it often looks something like this. Sometimes they put horizontal lines and then a big beard. Here they've done like head, neck, beard. So it's this guy. P, as usual, 3 lines with a bottom. That's the way that's normally drawn. E looks good. The Ankh is terrible. It wasn't well drawn in the first place. I'm talking about this one here. I don't think it was well drawn to begin with, and it's got like a break in it, which makes it even harder to recognize. But this one at least gives us a really good clue because that's pretty standard, just that kind of circly shape. And then just given the things that come next, which are pretty clear, it's not really in doubt that that's what that says.
Could
You
you
got this-
sort of trace what the Ankh should look like? Because it's really hard to interpret.
It very often looks like an Ankh. Even even in really late texts, like texts that have demotic and hieratic in them. We were just looking at a mummy label that begins with Ankh, like may so-and-so live, and it looks just like that. I think it looks something like that. It's a little distorted, but very clearly an Ankh. I think
amazing.
in most hieratic texts, it looks like an Ankh. Let's see, where am I going to find it? Does anyone know the sign code for that sign? Probably in V, I'm guessing. Because it's been sort of erroneously, it's in V.
Close. It is kind of close or shoe or something. A part of sandal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's labeled as a sandal strap. So the idea is that, like, you know, if you're looking at this one here, it's like if you're looking, like if this is the ankle sort of in cross section, you're looking down at a shoe, and like these are the little toes on there. That's what people thought it was. I'm pretty sure the consensus is against that interpretation now. There doesn't seem to be a lot of reason to think that that's what it represents originally. But nobody knows otherwise. So it's like that's our best guess.
S 34.
Oh, I thought it would be in S34, 534. Regalia. 534. Actually, it does look a lot like this one. I always imagine it being more Ankh-like, but I guess it doesn't have to be. This one is not very Ankh-like. That one isn't either. So yeah, this is actually, like, going back to what we have, I suppose it's not even that weird looking. Let me go look at what I just said. What do we have? We've got one that's like a T on a stick. I guess that's something like what we could have here. Maybe that. That's a new thing for me to pay attention to. Had it in my mind that it looked more just like an Ankh. This 2 is great. You have like, it's been so completely ligatured that you can actually trace the entire path. In theory, it might look something like this. I feel like I drew that wrong. Something like that. And then here they've so completely ligatured it that they're just basically one sign. See, the S couldn't be clearer. Seneb, pretty good. This Y1 sign is not so great. But that goes with Seneb. It's like always written with the Y1 sign. And then we've got another ligatured one. It's even harder to see, but it's kind of this process of like, if you're actually transcribing a hieratic text anew, it's kind of this process of like gradually going through and identifying the things that you know for sure. Like, let's say I'll start here because this one is really, really straightforward. And I'll just do like a little drawing. Depth, that's definitely for sure. Not so sure about that. This one I would have a question on because I just didn't expect it to be Ankh. But then this one I've got a little round sign, some kind of tall sign. And then the 2 is I think pretty clear. And then the neb I would be a little uncertain about, but I might suggest a neb here and then be like, what is this exactly? This one here would still be a question mark. Then I would get 2, and then yeah. So like you do that for the whole line. You kind of rough them in, and then go back, and it's like, okay, well, what word fits here? If this is an N, which it looks very much like, and then this, you like go through the paleography and find all the things it could be, and then narrow it down. It's like, well, it has to be Ankh because that's what fits the next 2 things. So, yeah, kind of like figure out one thing, and that it's like doing it's like a crossword puzzle, right? Like you get some of the horizontal words in, and then that gives you some clue to the vertical words, and you just gradually go until the whole thing is filled in. And then it's like, the answer can't be anything else because everything has kind of clicked together in a way that makes you as certain as you might hope to be. Anyway, okay, so this is definitely an R, this is definitely an N. We're looking here now. P is huge, possible to miss. These guys are pretty good, double reed leaf. They're not perfect, but there's enough there. And that's a common enough sign that you don't have to worry about it. This thing, oh, it went the other way. It got ligatured. It got ligatured like this. That one's weird to me too. The seated child is not at all hard to see in this case. It's basically like a stick figure person in the hieratic. This Y1 is great. It's even got the little tick on the top. And then 2. Ooh, it's really far one. That's also good. Okay, so the only thing I'm kind of confused about is Renep. That's going to be in N. No, M, plants. Let's take a look at that. 270. Gosh, it really doesn't look like this. I guess this one is the best candidate. It's just got kind of like, these ones are good too. Kind of like a backwards crook and then a little stick sticking out of it. Let's see if we can match that here. It's been ligatured again, so like there's this erroneous connecting line, but then backwards hook and stick. Yeah, that looks good to me. That would be tricky to figure out, but obviously we have the rest of the word so perfectly clearly, even up to here, that this classifier, well, triliteral. It's a triliteral and a classifier. But like most hieroglyphic signs, it's not really one or the other. It's like Renep by itself. That's why it's also used in the word Rompi, year. But then it can also be a classifier for like to be young, or just like a triliteral that comes after the full phonetic spelling. However you want to think about it. I don't think there's a right or a wrong. This one's not super obvious, but it's Ba. Ba is often not super obvious. We have something kind of weird here. And then the stroke. This becomes a demotic sign that looks like that. It's just the uniliteral B sign. So this, interestingly, I think I've talked about this before. It was thought, it's listed as Jabiru, which is actually a South American bird, so that's not technically correct. It's actually thought to be a saddle-billed stork, but I actually think it's a marabou stork, which is maybe the ugliest bird I've ever seen. So I'm not going to force you to look at it, but pretty sure marabou, maybe this is an eye, marabou stork. If you want to go look at it, it has this like giant, horrible wattle on its neck that is just like horrifying to witness. There's a good onk. That looks very onk-like.
I don't think we've
And
read
then-
this. I think we've gotten ahead of ourselves.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Aaron. I got on a roll with hieratic. Okay. So we're here, like that. Does somebody want to read?
I had just one question before we went on.
Sure.
The moot, can you draw what part is the vulture and what part is the T?
Yeah. I'm gonna zoom way in again. That makes it easier to draw. The moot part is here, and the T
Okay.
is this.
Okay, and then they're just
I mean,
connected by
you're
that
used to
slit
seeing,
line.
yeah. You're used to seeing a hieratic T that's kind of just like a single angle. It's like half of a T,
Mhm.
like that. In this case, they've just gotten completely lazy with it. They went like, just got like, you can see they're kind of going for the horizontal, but without, they really need to go all the way over here to get that proper T look, but they cut a corner here and just went directly to that. So that's how you end up with that kind of weird and very uncommon ligature. It's not the way it normally looks. Moot, that sign often looks very clearly like the hieroglyph that it is, because it's a rare enough sign that they tend to draw it very clearly. But I think in this, like this goddess that they've mentioned 12 times already, they're like, nah, you'll get it. Okay, I'm gonna zoom out so we can see more hieroglyphs. Somebody want to do some reading? Mustafa, are you present? Do you want to do some reading?
Yeah.
All right.
Let me- Where to start? Actually, yeah. Bank, Banken en Banken.
Yep.
Neb Erjar. Ka. Neb Erjar Ka. Yuno. Resi. Oh,
Nope.
no, yeah.
Good thought. It
Then
looks similar.
Su.
Yeah.
Actually, it
Good.
is Su, but yeah, maybe I don't know. Yeah, Su. Su. Nefer. Tab Meri.
You left out a word.
Nu Tameri.
Yeah, new Tameri. Okay, we got a lot of interesting stuff in here. So let's start at the beginning where I think it's quite simple.
Yeah.
Ba, onk, en.
Proper name?
No. Well, no.
Yeah, not. Ba Ang. This Ba of
What kind of ba?
living Ba.
Yeah,
Of
living ba. Of.
living Ba of Lord to the completeness.
Mhm.
The bull in Heliopolis. And MCU.
Yeah. This is, I would go ahead and transcribe this Nesu.
Yeah. M Nesu as king,
Yeah,
as king.
what kind of
Oh,
king?
Good king.
Good king, yeah. Nesu Nefer. And then what is this? Mustafa, your sound just dropped for me. You're not muted though. I think it might just be internet things.
Just from me.
You're coming in, you're breaking up a lot. You're coming in every few seconds.
Okay.
Okay, you seem to be mostly back
me-
now.
Oh.
Oh, Mustafa, try lock your screen. Turn off your screen. Oh no, we lost him. We lost him, Mustafa. Well, while we wait for him to come back, anybody else? I mean, he did most of the work, right? You just got to take it home. Just this is like an RBI opportunity to use baseball metaphors, which I never use. I don't know why I just even said that.
Is it of?
Yeah, it is of. What's weird about that, Aaron? Oops.
God. I don't know. I mean, I can guess, but I don't honestly know.
Well, if you can guess, then you should.
New. Is it Middle Egyptian-y?
Yeah, yeah.
And wait, is there something? Is
It's,
it
you know,
plural?
Middle
Like
Egyptian-y,
plural?
and it's also like weirdly like, yeah, it really shouldn't be new. Even Middle Egyptian-y, it's kind of like you see new being used as N in like Ptolemaic inscriptions or later things, but mostly you see this pattern of like knee. Wait, not knee. It's not actually written with a thing. Just knee net. Can everybody hear me okay? Is my internet doing all right? Okay,
Yeah.
just checking. I don't want to assume that it's on Mustafa's end if it's actually on mine. Okay, so knee, net, and then that's so masculine singular, feminine singular, and then you have feminine plural, masculine plural, also net sometimes. I think it could also be new, and then new in the masculine plural. So this is like the Middle Egyptian breakdown, and this was originally an adjective. The of one, the one which is of the ovish thing. So it's the good God who is of Tamari. Do you want to know what Tamari means? Reasonably common way.
Beloved land.
Yeah, beloved land. Let me check my. Oh. I'm on.
Christian, I think you are also now breaking up where I am. You're frozen
Same
and we
here.
can't hear you.
Okay, there we go. All right, we're back. I was on the other I have two internets because German internet goes down all the time. I was on the one where the router is way in the other room, and so it wasn't connecting well. That was actually on me. Sorry about that. Okay, so we should be coming in a lot clearer now. Tom Mary, I think someone said it just before I fixed that internet issue. Beloved land. I think Ralph, you said it just before I lost you. Yeah, beloved land, and then the beloved land you can kind of immediately see is like Egypt. It's just another way of saying Egypt. You're used to seeing Kemet as the word for Egypt, but Egyptian texts, Kemet is probably just the most common, but really only, it's a pretty close race in real Egyptian texts, how they refer to Egypt. Kemet is like the most common by a nose, but Tom Mary is, I think, probably the second most common and really, really common. Okay, so.
Sorry, the two town determinatives, that's a false dual, I guess. From
Oh
Mary?
yeah, good catch. Yeah, it's a false dual. So it's ta Mary, which sounds a lot like ta. Oh, I used J. I'm supposed to be using I. I forgot my own system. Ta Mary, the dual. They're probably phonetically identical because the adjective has an ending, like a masculine singular, a vowel of some sort, or like a semi-vowel, like a Y type vowel on the end. So you can use a false dual to represent that.
And all those birds on a stick, those are all determinatives. None of them are like Nesud or Netra or something.
I don't think so. The way I read this is
Like you're dividing it that way. Okay.
yeah, so these are all holy things or sacred things, and they seem to stick one on every single thing that is somehow sacred. So yeah, you can also remember that, like, if you look at the hieratic of these things, it's basically it's almost negligible cost, this sign. So it's not surprising that they would throw it in, especially since this text has a religious component. Not at all surprising that they would throw it in anytime they have something that could vaguely be connected to a god, even an adjective describing a god. Nesu Nefer, good king of the beloved land. Like, what is good? Need a falcon on a stick? Well, because it's the good king. Makes sense. It's like how everybody
So
in a
the
church
M
has a halo.
is like an attributive adjective, or like it's making not an adjective. The preposition's making it sort of an adverbial phrase.
This one is, yeah, this one is making an adverbial phrase.
Okay.
The bull who is in Heliopolis, no, sorry, the bull in Heliopolis. That's a little weird. Who is the good king of the beloved land? So that's the M of predication. We've seen it. If you've done a lot of Coptic, you've seen it. I think it's the way that Coptic noun adjective pairs work. They normally
Right.
use that N or
Can you
M
hear me?
connector.
But we don't need a continuing pronoun for that in late Egyptian.
No, I would expect there to be one. I think this is an older phrase, or it's meant to imitate an
Okay.
older phrase. Like this new, you don't actually need new because this is singular. But Middle Egyptian has new as like it's grammatical. Late Egyptian really doesn't. But then if you want like a Middle Egyptian-y looking text, well, you use new. Because only Middle Egyptian, like proper Middle Egyptian texts have that. Late Egyptian texts don't have that. It's a way of looking at, making it look old. It's the same thing that we've talked about before. This like the old Deshapa thing. I think it's a like archaizing thing that is not meant to be accurate.
Okay.
This is masculine
Hear me?
singular. What was that?
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
we hear you fine now. Mustafa, it might have been my internet. I had my internet set up incorrectly,
No,
so it might have been my fault.
actually, there is a snowstorm in Istanbul, and maybe it is.
There's a snowstorm in
Wow.
Istanbul?
Yeah, yeah. Just I don't
Hmm.
know.
I can mainly see the reflection of your own screen. But
Okay.
I believe you. I believe you in
Yeah.
cases. So it's
If
just I
you-
wasn't expecting you to say that.
It is 2 days for 2 day or 3 day or something like.
Does it normally snow in Istanbul?
In this month, not not.
Okay. Well, I mean, welcome to the new like climate disaster world we live in, I guess. I don't know. That seems really strange to me.
Actually, not much disaster because normally Istanbul has lots of snowing in its normal climate, and even in 1950s, the sea, Marmara Sea, has it's frozen on its surface, and you
Wow.
can go to Istanbul with horse to Bursa, just driving a horse or something.
Like across the sea,
Yeah,
the Sea of Marmara. That's bizarre.
yeah,
Oh, that's super interesting. I did
yeah.
not know that. Well, you taught us something new. Do you wanna finish the translation of the sentence? I think
Yeah,
you
yeah,
almost had it
of
all the way
course.
there. Just put it all together.
Yeah. The living bar of Lord to the completeness, the bull in Heliopolis, as good king of Tamerit, Egypt.
Yeah. Good. That's it. I'll zoom in again. We'll do some like close look at the hieratic.
Yeah.
Ba, I talked about earlier. This all, aside from this sign, which is a little tricky, I feel like the rest of it, you might at this point be able to transcribe yourself. At least if you're having like a good hieratic reading day, you could probably do it. And then this neb is great because there's the typical neb sign, and often it has like a little thing in the middle to represent like the basket weaving, because it is a basket viewed from the side.
Yeah.
But it's like they do this and then they go, brah. It's on top, which is typical for this text. The little squigglies are often on top of the neb sign, and then the R.
Normally neb sign, this in cursive writing, the upper part of this form is mostly inside of the neb.
Yeah, like this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little strange, but it's the way it looks in this text.
Much more practical to write.
Yeah. Yeah, I think probably, I don't know for sure, but if you were to use like a really thick pen to write this, is that as big as it gets? Oh my gosh, if I push harder. If you were to use a really thick pen, do this and do the squiggles inside, maybe you just end up with kind of a blob.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why. I don't really know. Jer, we've seen before, pretty standard looking. It's kind of like it's got like a big frame and then some stuff inside, and then the R normally inside too. And that's Jer. We've looked at it closely in the past, so I'll just leave it. Ka looks good. This is penis somehow. Kind of looks like a duck's penis. It's like huge. In cursive writing, it looks like, how does it look like? It looks kind of like this. So they've done part of that, and they've tried to do some like testicles, but they're not very clear. But that's basically what we have here. And it's bigger than all the other signs. I don't know, maybe they're compensating for something. This doesn't look like a bull at all to me. So I don't even get that. I don't have any advice to offer on that. But it's like we have the ka, right? The ka is very clear. And then this is, it could be a few things. It kind of looks like a bird sign, but clear enough. And then and then this sign couldn't be better. That's like the best version of that sign, maybe the best version I've ever seen. So we have everything else here. And then so the only weirdness is this. I don't even know how you get a bull from that. That one we're gonna have to look. It's easy enough to look up.
It look like nets more than the bull sign.
Yeah, I don't see how that's a bull. Maybe it's just that I haven't seen that hieratic sign often enough to recognize it as what it is. But it just doesn't, oof. Yeah, these are pretty awful. That's a bull somehow? Okay, now luckily I can just take that with us. Sure. I mean, I'll buy it. We got something like this, then this, and then that. Not that far off, actually. I just haven't seen it enough times to see how it connected. That's good. Okay. And then, like I said, Heliopolis, Falcon on a stick, another M. All the M's look like 3s. Also not weird. Su, very clear, except for the fact that these kind of cross over. So this is the Su sign, and then this is the stroke, and they're overlaid on one another, which may be a little confusing. And then this stuff is really good. Nefer sign looks great. Looks just like the hieroglyph. All the way up to here. The noose, the new pot. I'm used to seeing it kind of drawn in one thing like that. I think you could also do it in 2 parts like that. Either way, it looks good. Ta is partially broken, but we know what to expect here. And then all of these look like things we've seen before. So everything else looks really nice. I don't think there's any confusion. If anyone has questions while I'm going through this, please just interrupt me. I can't actually see you guys while doing these things on the screen. So you have to say something. Look at this weird R. Look at that. It's like it was meant to be like that, and it just got turned 90 degrees. And then this is all pretty good. They've actually ligatured the T and the little squiggly dual sign completely. Oh, this is past where we are. Okay. Well, we're ready to read some more then.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are, yeah, this extends across 2 lines. So try to do it like this, start it up at the top, and then scroll over when we get to the next line. So we are here.
Yeah.
All right, Mustafa, you already went. Who else? Who's next? Ralph is looking at his screen very intently, which makes me think that he's got something to say.
Nope, I have nothing to say.
Oh no. Do you want to try to read it anyway?
I can try and read it anyway.
Okay.
So we've got Renti,
Mm-hmm.
Bach, or Bache. And is that E?
Bach,
Im.
Bach, im. This is a, we'll talk about this. This is a known
Okay.
idiom.
Bakim, your servant. The one who is your servant, I guess. Sedger, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sedger something. Herdep, is that Osiris?
Yep.
Osiris. Her, I forget what is that a fire thing?
I can't remember what that thing is. I thought it was like a scepter. I don't remember for sure,
Scepter?
but it's Nedge. And it's written with the new pot also, but it's just, this
Okay.
word is just Nedge.
Nedge 2.
Yeah,
Nedge 2. And it's actually just Nedge. It's like the infinitive, Nedge
it
2.
means something like
Oops.
pay homage or yeah.
Yeah, it's like ask about the health of or something. And then this one I think is not bad.
Tawi
Tawi,
Herneb.
Reyneb, yeah, or Heruneb
Reyneb.
if you want to translate. Yeah, either way.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is actually this is 2 words. It's Erneti, and literally it's
To ask or in asking.
it's to which.
To which.
Literally to which or toward which, but it's a way of like, so we've done all the introductions and it's like saying, namely, this is the content of the letter. It's a way of separating the salutations from the actual message. And it literally translates as to which, but you can think of it as, you know, any of these kinds of phrases that often they can't really be analyzed. My go-to example is always nevertheless, which in my mind means nothing if I try to analyze it. Nevertheless, this doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sure there's an etymology of it that makes sense to someone else. But it doesn't make any sense to me, but I know what it means, right? Because I speak English. This is kind of like that. It's, you could think of it as, you know, i.e. people use the word i.e. correctly all the time without knowing anything about Latin. So they don't actually know what the word means. Yeah, it is, literally it is, but you don't have to know that it even stands for id est. You can just know how to use it, right? And not think about how
I
to
thought
analyze
it is for an example or something. Yeah.
That's, you're thinking of EG, which
Yeah.
is exempli gratia. So for the sake of example, literally, exempli
Weird.
gratia.
Yeah.
Important to keep these 2 distinct because they mean different things, but you don't actually have to know any Latin to use them. English speakers use them correctly all the time without knowing, without being able to like analyze their etymologies. Erneti is kind of like that. It's like, okay, here's the stuff I really want to say, and you know it means that, but like if you were trying to think it like toward which, like this, I'm greeting you to the purpose of that which here it is. It's not a great explanation, but you get the idea. And then Bakim. Do you happen to know, Ralph, what's up with Bakim?
I know it means you're a servant, but I don't remember how the grammar works.
Yeah, it's it's continued from Middle Egyptian. It's the servant who is there, or the servant there. So like the present servant, the eager attending servant or something, if you were to like make it literal. It's often translated in like literary translations as your humble servant, which is not present in the Egyptian at all. But it does imply like I'm at your service. So what has Bakim been doing?
Has been sedgering, but I don't remember what that means. It's got a mummy determinative and a protection and a guy with a stick.
This is actually not a protection. This is sesher. It's linen. It's a
oh, I get those upside down.
It's a linen sack tied at the top.
Which is also to do with embalming?
It can be. So it can be they like the stuff that you take away after you mummify someone. You're supposed to put it in like linen sacks and bury it with the deceased, or actually put it back inside their body and bury it with the deceased. Or it can also just be, it's like the generic classifier for anything having to do with like textile. And it's also in the word linen. That's where I got sesher. Sesher just means linen. So yeah, but I think it's in this word because it's like bedclothes. Well, that was an impression that I've never actually said out loud. That sounds wrong. I don't know. It's in this word.
And this word means?
Like lying down.
So it's the servant who is there lying down before the Osiris.
Yeah, your humble servant is lying down on top of Osiris. That's what it says. I mean, that's what it says. It's not even ambiguous. I don't.
Nudge, nudge to, inquiring as to
Yep.
the two lands of every day.
Yeah. That's what it says.
Okay.
This is a good opportunity to cheat. I'm gonna cheat. Where's the thingy?
So Simpson says, I spend all night on Osiris's behalf.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm not-
That's something like what I would say too. It's like, I am all night, spending the night with Osiris, inquiring after the two lands every day. Gosh, that is weirder than I even realized. It's like, why is he spending the night? And like Sejer, it can mean to sleep or to lie down or to spend the night.
Can it mean
Actually-
like keeping watch or something like that?
Yeah,
Like watching over someone?
I think this is idiomatic. I think this is a known thing that we just don't have enough examples of to be really clear about it. But it literally says, I am lying down on top of Osiris, inquiring after the two lands every day. Maybe it means like I am in direct, constant company with Osiris, and we are continually doing this thing. Maybe it's an idiom for saying that. That's my best guess. Because like literally, it doesn't make much sense, but it would make perfect sense as an idiom. Like we talk about like getting on top of your work, for example, means being caught up on everything. It doesn't literally mean like climbing up on your desk and sitting on a stack of papers. It seems to me to be an idiom in that same vein of like, I'm lying on top of someone. It seems to mean I'm like in their constant company and we're doing this thing together. That's the best I got.
Or, I mean, if it's an idiom, it could be more abstract, like more like, I have spent all night upon Osiris's bidding, or doing his, upon his wishes, upon some, rather than being upon him. Couldn't it be?
Yeah.
Or is that taking too much of a leap because those words just aren't there?
I don't think it is taking too much of a leap, because we do have it connected to this phrase, Osiris, who is, so this is a pseudo-verbal, right? Hair plus infinitive. I'm spending the night on top of Osiris, who is inquiring after the two lands every day. And so it's like, I'm spending all night on top of Osiris is inquiring after the two lands every day. Like I'm working day and night on the project of enabling Osiris's inquiring after the two. That's totally fine. I don't have a good.
And so Thoth is writing, but this is Ray speaking.
Oh gosh, I don't even
saying
remember
that he's
this.
paying attention to what Osiris's business was. So Osiris is dead, and presumably in the underworld, but we're talking about the case of what to do with Osiris's role, right, as king.
Yeah. Okay, so it's Ray saying this.
Ray is saying this to Neat, I think.
Yeah, Ray is saying this to Neat. Thoth is transcribing, or he's writing on Ray's behalf. Either way, it doesn't matter for our purposes. And so Ray is saying, Prey is saying. I'm spending all night on top of Osiris's inquiring about the two lands every day.
So it's like Osiris is asking Ray what's going to happen to Egypt now that I'm gone. Is that a valid way to understand this?
Yeah, and I think there's an even deeper level where like at night Ray becomes Osiris. I think
Iris
there's
and
a-
is down in the underworld, right?
Yes, and
Interesting.
like Ray is literally on top of Osiris. I think there's like a mythological layer to this that I don't fully understand.
Wow.
It's a good question. It gives us, you know, something to come back to. So we have to do the hieratic starting here. How much did we get? Did we do good? We started here.
I need a line.
Well, that's not bad. We did a full line, really like, I would say a line and a half. Okay, I'm not displeased. We'll start moving faster. We'll start doing the hieratic faster for sure, because it'll become second nature once you see it a few times. Okay, I'll see y'all in late Egyptian. We got some sentences to translate.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.